Hello, everyone. It's Bill Brandmeier. We're back here with Ready to Play Week. We're on Friday, and we're covering all of the different professional leagues, how they are safely returning to sport. We're lucky to have our soccer expert, our Sporting KC expert, and someone who has dedicated herself to becoming one of the top sports radio personalities in our city. Aly Trost, how are you, Aly?
Bill, I'm doing well, as good as I can be. Soccer is back on the women's side and coming back on the men's side, so no complaints there. Same as everyone else, though, hoping that things can continue on mostly, stress-free and, positive COVID test-free, but that's yet to be seen. However, I think that as of right now, things seem to be under control. So hoping that stays the same here going forward.
Thank you so much for joining us. We've been here all week, broadcasting, doing interviews, telling stories, talking with the experts. I'm really glad that we get a chance to talk to you. One of the things that I wanted to ask you before we got started was the importance that sports has played in your life, how you chose to kind of move into this broadcasting life that you live, and let people know what it's been like to operate in this time of COVID as a sports broadcaster.
Yeah, well, first off, I'll just say that I'm very fortunate to be able to work during this time. I know that with the sports industry as a whole, and the different types of roles that exist within the industry, there are a lot of part-time or freelance contract workers. And so to be able to provide information to the masses, and especially locally here in KC, especially, with the COVID-19 pandemic, how it's affecting sports, just very grateful to have a job and to get to report on this type of information and hopefully educate everyone on what's going on. And it's interesting, I got a major in journalism from the University of Missouri, and really, while my emphasis now is sports, it's very important to be accurate as far as news reports. And I think that if anything, I've learned how important it is to be versatile and how different aspects of your job can kind of overlap and kind of tap into different aspects of the field of journalism. But sports, they're everything to me. I grew up playing soccer primarily, but I have 3 younger brothers who played every sport that you can imagine. Many weekends, days, nights were spent at every court, rink, arena, field, everywhere that you could imagine that sports were played. The Trost family, we were there, and we had this calendar in our kitchen. Each kid had a color-coded dry erase marker, and that is what kept everyone on time to all of their different events. So growing up, sports were just that was all I did. Really, it was all I did. I started coaching when I was just 14 years old at a summer camp, still coach today with youth soccer with the Sporting Stripes program here in KC. And as of a year ago, I'm full-time in sports broadcasting. So I work, like you said, as a radio host. I'm full-time at 810 doing hosting. I oversee our digital content efforts and social media. And I also do a lot of freelance work as well. So emceeing charity events, emceeing sports-related events, sideline reporting, analyst work, covering anything from basketball to football to soccer. So I do a little bit of everything, but I absolutely love it. It is such a rewarding job in so many ways, and I pinch myself that this is what I get to do. And again, just want to reiterate, just very grateful to have a job in this very unusual time, and thinking about all my colleagues that are out of work right now.
Yeah, well, we're lucky to have your talents, and as some moment I met you, I had this sense that you were going to go places, and you just continue to grow and get better. Your relationship with Sporting KC is probably one of the best broadcast relationships that's out there, probably because your passion for soccer and that shows through as you cover the sport. Tell us a little bit about why soccer is coming back as quickly as they are, and the plans they have for the MLS's back tournament, how the women are doing, and what you expect from the men.
Yeah, well, I'll start with how Major League Soccer was able to get to this point as quickly as they have been, and I'll highlight 2 things. The first thing being that manager Peter Vermees of Sporting Kansas City, a huge influence in the growth of soccer as a whole, used to play in Major League Soccer and then has now been coaching. He is actually the 7th longest tenured head coach in the world. That is of 110 different soccer leagues. So that just goes to show, the dedication that he has. But right off the bat, right when this pandemic hit and the quarantine started, all of, this all hitting at once, he was the one who was like, okay, let's find a solution. He's a very solutions-oriented person. He wants to find a fix, and he's going to keep working until he does that. And so actually the model that the league used for all of their teams to get back to training at the facilities, have individual workouts, start back up, that came as a result of how Vermees and his team were able to kind of draw the plans. They shot some video, they detailed everything out, and then that was kind of what pushed the league towards getting that major first step in place of getting players back to their facilities and training. So I'd say Vermees and his influence and his dedication to finding a solution was actually pivotal in getting Major League Soccer to where it is. And then the second part, and this is something that we saw with baseball and how they were so slow to get, any sort of agreement down on paper, was the CBA negotiations. And it took some, sacrifice on both sides of the Players Association and the league. But, ultimately Major League Soccer and the Players Association were able to be pretty quick and timely in their negotiation process, and were able to get a date on the calendar. And once they had that, all the plans kind of fell into place. And so Sporting Kansas City will head down to Orlando to play in the bubble on July 5th is when they travel.
Yeah, well, so it's happening. We know when Sporting's going to play, right? We have a good idea of their first game. It's Sunday, the 12th. Is that right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that's exciting. I mean, I think we're all as sports fans just hungry for something live to look at besides golf. And
absolutely.
What is your sense of what's happening with the sport across all leagues? The youth sports are back out there. Sporting's doing camps. Brookside Soccer's doing camps. Heartland Soccer's engaged. Soccer seems to be wanting to push this a little bit to get people out there. Do you think that's a good idea, and do you think that they're handling it correctly?
I'll start from the perspective of the pro level first, because we talked with manager Peter Vermees on Thursday about what the update is, how things have been going, and they did have their first positive test, although it is unconfirmed, and that's of thousands of tests for a great number of personnel. I mean, there are, in dozens, if not over 100 people who are interacting daily with the players, and that includes the staff, the, coaching personnel, everyone that's involved in making, this whole thing happen, everyone that's essential, and have one unconfirmed test. That test is going, they're going to have a retest to make sure it was not a false positive. But again, with the pro level, and we've already seen some positive tests popping up in the bubble in Orlando, but it's not a matter of, trying to, of course, you want to avoid putting yourself at risk and putting others at risk for contracting the virus, for having positive tests. But ultimately, as we've seen with this virus, positive tests are going to happen. But the question is, do you have the proper protocols in place to make sure that when you do have a positive test, that you're able to act quickly enough in order to, reduce the spread of the virus and make the impact less severe for the people associated closely with that person. So, that's just kind of a risk that you run. Major League Soccer maintains that they have very, solid protocols in place for when positive tests pop up. And that's easier to kind of control at the pro level, right? The problem that you run into at the youth level is that it's just less controlled. It's kind of like college sports, in my opinion, in that, these kids, you might not be able to control what their home life is like, how serious their parents or, their caretakers are encouraging them to be with the virus and safety protocols. You can only control what you are requiring at camps or at trainings that you're holding. So that's kind of where I think the water gets a little muddy, and I'm interested to see how these camps do coming back. I think it's great, though, from the standpoint that kids do need physical activity. Bill, we've talked about this a lot. It's very important for kids, both mentally and physically, that they're able to get back to sports.
Yep, it's so important, and we've been talking about it all week. There's this emotional connection. I know you had a chance to have an interview with Dr. Todd Bowman. We had him on earlier this week. He talked about the impact that this has had on all levels of players, but certainly children. Social interaction is so important and so much a part of the fabric of youth sports. And we as a community are bound together by the love we have for our teams, and sports is that fabric that binds us together. And I just pray and I hope that the fans in the stands practice the safe guidelines, follow all of the different rules, keep safe distancing, but also wear masks and enjoy watching, the sports that we love. And I don't want it to go backwards. I want it to keep moving forward, keep finding ways to, keep each other safe. It's happening. And we got soccer. I'm sure you're excited. What's your first game you're going to cover? Are you covering a women's game?
So I'm more of just kind of commenting on those as they happen, and when I have my shows or live tweeting about it. I don't have any specific role in covering the tournament, although I would encourage everyone to watch. It's a great product. There's a ton of current veteran talent and a lot of rising talent. So definitely check it out if you haven't had a chance to watch.
Sure.
The U.S. women's national team, as we know, the reigning World Cup champions, and a lot of those stars are on these teams. So definitely tune in. And also it's interesting to watch, from a broadcast perspective, just the changes that are going into these games, whether it's from the broadcast level or the game itself. But yeah, so that's kind of what's going on right now. But then Major League Soccer, their MLS is Back tournament kicks off next weekend. So Sporting, their first game is not till Sunday, July 12th, and they will travel down to Orlando this Sunday, the 5th.
That's cool. Well, I know you're excited. I know you're super busy. You're all over the place doing so much good reporting and really great interviews. What kind of media access are they giving us or anyone for the MLS's Back tournament? Yeah,
so Sporting is sending a select group of their team down there, and Carter Augustine, who is the sideline reporter, he does a bunch of other reporting for the club and then on a Fox Sports Kansas City. He is the sole reporter they are sending down there to be on the ground in Orlando. I will be doing post-match game coverage on Sports Radio 810 with my co-hosts Dave Borchert and Chad Reynolds. So we will have those immediately after each of the Sporting games in this MLS's Back tournament. So there are 3 group stage games are the guaranteed games that we will have on the schedule. But yeah, other than that, it's just going to be Zoom press conferences, right? That's what we've all gotten used to now, is seeing each other's faces via Zoom. And I think that that's going to be the case, honestly, for other pro sports coming back. So NFL, Major League Baseball, I think that if you're looking for, if you're looking to consume interviews and things like that, all of your post-game coverage or pre-game coverage, weekly coverage that you've been used to as fans, get used to seeing those Zoom interviews for a little bit longer. I think through the end of the year for sure.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, we're joined by Aly Trost. This is Ready to Play Week. We're on our final day. We're talking about the professional leagues and how they're safely coming back online and getting us into able to watch real live sports. Soccer is on its way. For all the soccer fans out there, that is music to their ears. And we certainly are excited around the 810 WHB and Union Broadcasting to watch our boys get back out on the field. How good is the team, Ally?
They're great. I mean, I think that every team is going to struggle a little bit in coming back. And Vermees has talked about this a lot throughout the last couple of weeks and months, and the players have as well. It's not as much about the technical stuff. It is, but it's mostly about the fitness side. And there's just really nothing you can do to replicate mid-season fitness or 90-minute game fitness. However, as we've seen at the start of this whole thing, Sporting was really one of the first teams back and really getting their guys ready for when soccer would return. They were treating March and April just as, strictly and just as competitively as they have been these last couple of weeks. So they've been locked in the entire time. And as we saw at the start of the season, team was in great form, 2-0, and a good number of goals to show for their success. So I think that they're well positioned to be successful in this tournament. And yeah, I think it's going to come down to the physical aspect and staying healthy. If you have an outbreak on a team and that makes 5 players unavailable, well, then you've got a smaller roster to work with, and you have fewer bodies that, maybe your starters that you would have playing significant minutes. So I think it's really going to come down to health, both physically in terms of injury and fatigue, and also health in terms of the pandemic and the coronavirus. Even if you're not symptomatic and you feel fine, if you test positive, you are in quarantine and you cannot play. So that's going to be an issue that teams could potentially face.
Well, let's hope that that doesn't happen. And I just want you to know that I really appreciate all the support you've given ShareWaves. You've been a fan from the very beginning, and working with you has been a pleasure. You've taught me a lot, and I'm looking forward to continuing our relationship as we go down this road and hearing more about soccer from you. So great work.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks, Bill. And a big thanks to you for all that you've done and in growing ShareWaves and bringing it to the community. I think it's such an important initiative. And growing up, I was fortunate to have sports play such a large role in my life, and then still today. And every kid deserves the access to sports, and not only deserves it, but they need it. They crave it. It's important for so many aspects of the life of a child and the development of a child. So happy to be a small part of a very successful week. Congrats.
Thank you so much. That's Aly Trost. She joins us today. It's ready to play week, final day. We're talking about the professional sports and their way they're coming safely back into our lives. Excited about that. Excited about everything that's happening in our world, and really appreciate everyone listening. We'll be back right after this.